Hey everybody, welcome to the Brox and Max channel. Figured I'd give you a little update on the progress with this truck behind me. I'm kind of sick of working on it, so I gotta get going. A little bit tedious at the end with all the stainless crap that I'm putting on it. I just want it to be one and done. Just be done with, no regrets, no nothing. So here's what I'm doing. So here's the passenger side door. This is 100% finished product. Every fastener, bolts, everything is stainless steel. The only thing that's not stainless steel is, and I can't help it, is this piece for the little blind spot mirror. That's the only thing that's regular steel, but everything is stainless. Lock washers, flat washers, stainless steel fasteners for the grab handles, stainless steel U-bolts to hold on this 6-inch pipe. I'm just trying my best to not have rusty bolt issues down the road. Even this fastener here, this is a 3-inch tube. Actually, it might be 2.5. I can't even remember. But the U-bolts for that are even stainless steel. I even have this airbox finally mounted. I was getting a little nervous, always maneuvering around it. It was always sitting on the back frame of this truck here. Now it's kind of fastened in place. I do have to clock it because it's a little bit too close. It's got to be clocked this way, just a little bit, so I can get all my ductwork and piping hooked up to it. And then, even this strap here is stainless steel. Ironically enough, it happened to fit. I was down, I think in Rockdale, New Jersey. I had no intention of going to this place, but I was actually going to get a Rheinco hay blower. Kind of similar to this one. And the guy screwed me. I was 2.5 hours down there in my 3-hour journey, and they called and said, "Oh, hey, sorry, we forgot to tell you there was a down payment already put on it." So that really made me happy. So I ended up going on Facebook Marketplace and found a guy that's got Mack parts. Actually, this is where I got most of the stuff. This is a stainless steel backed mirror that I had to rebuild. That came from that place. And this bracket, they ran a lot of RD, Mack RD, and oddly enough, must be the air boxes on RDs happen to fit because this is stainless steel. I did buy 4 of them from the guy. 3 of them were stainless steel and 1 was steel chrome. So obviously Mack did a little bit of both. But I'm going to eventually get some piping up here and have that rain cap out of stainless steel and try to put this thing together and have it running for you pretty soon. Yeah, here's the other ones. And these are used. Like, these are not bad at all, but once stainless steel is polished, there's really no turning back. It will stay like a mirror for a while. It might just get a little bit cloudy depending on, like, I don't know if you could call it wind burn, or just depends on how many miles you put on the truck. It will film a touch, but not bad. Got stainless steel fasteners. Actually, these were factory for this little back panel right here. And I just got to put the mirror on this side. But same thing. It's just got all stainless steel stuff. This is actually, these wind deflectors here for the front are actually steel and chrome plated. They did on the later MRs make them out of stainless steel, which I have. But these are in such immaculate shape, being that they were fire trucks, that I'll just run them for now. And if they start to rust, bleed, or do something funky, then I'll just swap them out. Here is the driver's side mirror bracket for this truck that I chose not to use because there's just a little ding-dong in there that there's no way I'd be able to, it's actually a dent. I don't know if the camera can do a real good job of showing the detail of it, but there's no way to get that situated unless I build it up with stainless weld and polish it up. But I had 2 or 3 brackets to choose from, so I chose the best one for this. There's multiple pieces invested for this truck. I'm just using the best of what I have to try to make this truck as perfect as I can. And then here is a wide variety of the stainless window visors, I guess. They're not deflectors, they're those rain guard things on top of the windows. I got all of these at flea markets. I do not know what they fit, and probably neither did the vendor, but this particular company made all sorts of different styles. As you can see, this one kind of tapers, narrows up right here, but it's super long, so I may be able to massage it and make it fit the other door. And then these, I just pulled them all out of my toolbox. I had a drawer of these, and these might be too narrow, is what I found out. So eventually one of these 5 will work for the other side, just like this one did. This one actually fit up pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with it. I just got to finish up a few things, like touch up the screws. I don't want to be looking at aluminum sheet metal screws. I wasn't really sure how this was going to go because it's a fiberglass door. So I put a whole bunch of screws underneath here, and then I use this auto body glue. So hopefully it'll never come off. Actually, it will never come off. It'll just pull this whole top. If I ever tried to pinch this off, I bet this whole top of the door would pull off. That glue is no joke. I mean, if you get it on your fingers, you're wearing it for 2 weeks. I went to my local bolt and fastener place and ended up finding in the stainless section, I was running low on some 3/8 button heads, and this is all that I could find. I think these are 1 inch or 1.25 inch long. They'll work for certain things that I have going on, but I needed some longer ones. And then my impulsive decision making, I go to my assured thing is eBay. I got 1/4 inch stainless cap nuts, I think that's what you call them, hex acorn cap nuts. So I got 1/4, I got 5/16, and I got 3/8. That seems to be a normal size that I use, especially for mirror brackets. That's mainly what they're for. But if you have anything else you want to do, they really weren't that awful expensive either. And they will not rust. They actually described them in their listing as polished, and they actually are not that bad. Like, they are borderline ready to mount. I just was being picky about it, and I touched them up real quick with my buffing machine. But these are literally ready to go. You could put them on and be pretty happy with the result. And if there's anybody that knows anything about trucks, you never want to be short with bolts and fasteners. So what I ended up finding on eBay is a vendor had, these are 3/8 button head by, might be 2 inch or 2.5. They're way too long for what I need, but I'd rather have too long because, like I said, the one that I have, that 1 inch, is only going to work every once in a while. So this one is pretty versatile, and I'll just trim off what I don't use. I actually used this for the blind spot mirror on the passenger side, and I will intend to do that for the driver's side. Well, these bolts actually weren't that awfully expensive where I found them on eBay. It was a vendor that didn't really have fasteners. He just had a bunch of stuff, and he had bags of them, and they were like 15 bucks a bag for counts of 100. So what did I do? Well, maybe I got a little carried away. So I bought 2 bags. So that's a lifetime worth of extra long stainless steel button head bolts. I'll never have to worry about going to find them because they're right here. I actually did find a few things from Lowe's. Like, these are the, I don't know what you call these, carriage bolts. It's the square-headed backside. These are handy every once in a while. I just didn't think it was necessary to put them on mirror brackets, so that's why I have a few of them. And then of course, before I went on eBay, I thought I would just make it easy on myself and run down to Lowe's and get these acorn nuts. But the problem is they come in sets of 3. Who is using 3 of them? I mean, at least make a 4-pack or something. So these were not cost effective to buy this way, but I bought them anyway, again, before I got that stuff. So it's a learning curve. If you have a whole project of stuff that you want to do with some really special fasteners, like stainless steel bolts and nuts and stuff, I highly recommend, if you don't have a really good fastener store in your area, just get all the stuff online. Everything is online now. And of course, we have some pretty nasty weather. This morning was 10 below. I plan on having a video of this truck, a startup video. I just haven't quite gotten to it. Figured it's not a good day to try to start this thing. I have a few more things I need to do to it, but stay tuned for this video. I got some content made up already, and certain things I just had to do, precautions, to be able to make it run not on a oh, okay, I guess we're froze solid. Yep, we are. Oak 4x4 does it every time. So anyway, trying to take care of this vice grip and yarn action here for the throttle, which isn't going to be a big deal. And then of course I have to take care of this no floor. They call this a no floor. There's no floor, so I got to take care of that also. But I also have to gingerly pull all the trash out. I did hear about some homeless people living in this truck back when it was in Brooklyn or New York City or wherever it was hanging out last, so I'm sure there might be some syringes and just weird stuff that I really don't want to get myself into. So it's going to be pretty cautious for me to take care of it, but I'll get it all cleaned out and have a video for you guys. Make sure I lock this up for the night. Have some bad riffraff. I'm sure Jimmy Lee would appreciate it. Yep, waste oil's cooking. Keep this garage warm. See what the situation is before I go home for the night. Oh yeah. Flame's going good. Everything's dialed right in. Catch you another day. So here's the current situation with this truck. Got some fab work that I got to do, hence why the cab is tilted. And I don't want my nice paint job to go to waste, so I got my welding shield there. But this is why I had to do it. Being this truck is a tip turbine 285 engine, you have the big air cleaner with the dual outlets going out into the motor, one for the tip turbine and one for the turbo. I just didn't feel that big mighty box here had a sufficient amount of mounting brackets to my expectations, I guess. I know it's just me. I'm sure they made thousands of these trucks. Yeah, it's definitely just me. So what MC trucks had back in the day is you had this big band to hold the bottom end of the box, regardless of what size it was, whether it was the big one or the small one. Then they would connect all these little, I don't know, muffler brackets, C-clamps, whatever you want to call them, all the way up to the top, because you have that big long top part for the air intake to go above the cab for it to suck some air for the motor. Well, I wasn't really interested in that, so this was an afterthought. Of course, after it's primed, painted, and mounted, I put another one of these up on there so I can add another band to my mount. It's not a big deal. I have a sufficient amount of shielding, so nothing's really going to get hurt me welding on it. And I also didn't like this. This was just a seam. There was just a couple tacks to hold this whole piece on this tube, and I just wasn't happy with it. And I'm sure the parts truck that I got this off of had hundreds of thousands of miles because it was an ex-United States Postal Service truck. But still, it was just the fact of, come on, Mack, you couldn't just do a nice full weld on that like I did up here. So that's the current project right now. Probably that's why Volvo bought Mack, because they just didn't have their shit together for the engineering part of making the MCs correctly. Or maybe not. I'll show you the top that I made. I've been waiting for one. I've actually been looking for one. Here is the top for that intake there. It's 8-inch stainless steel. It's actually just an exhaust pipe for somebody that puts exhaust in the back of their pickup box. So I ordered it online, and it kind of worked, other than it's not a true 8-inch. It's more like 7 5/8, 7 3/4. So I couldn't quite do what I wanted to do. I had to add this rubber coupler because it just wouldn't have worked. I guess I could have welded it, but I didn't want to ruin the paint of this top, even though it's kind of dusty. But that's the look that I'm trying to achieve. They did make these out of aluminum. Actually, here it is right here. This is the aluminum one that I would have had to use. It's actually off of another truck because I didn't have this because of the way this truck was spec'd. Like I said in the previous videos, I had dual air cleaners on this that were tucked in the extended cab part of the truck itself. So I got my stainless steel topper here, and kind of like so. It'll end up looking like that when it's all said and done. So far, I'm pretty happy with this build of all the time-consuming stuff that it takes to make this exactly how I want it. And maybe in this same episode, I'll have it mounted. And look what I found. I found this guy. I'll have this mounted up and upright so you can see what my total accomplishment was. And you can see that the intake tube was this high this whole time. I haven't altered that. And I can't remember if I posted it in other videos, but the exhaust was about this tall. And I had to extend that up so I can get double brackets on it. Because, again, I don't get why Mack did what they did for these style trucks. They only had one muffler mount holding this whole show on. So to me, that didn't make a lot of sense. I'm really, really happy how this actually turned out. It just looks extremely clean. And it looks like actually somebody took the time to think a little bit. I don't know what the big rush was when they started building these trucks, but some of the bracketry, I'm sure they improved on it since the late 70s, early 80s. But damn, Mack, what were you thinking? So that is the whole point, that I made them kind of level. And if I procrastinate enough, maybe you'll be able to see the end result by the end of this episode. Standing on the steer tire here, get a better view of what I was trying to achieve. I just got done welding this cap on, and it's got a 5/8 thread. Actually, there's a nut welded on the back side of this. So this will be my bolt-on mount for the upright stack off of the air cleaner here. And then you see this piece that I had to make fit, welded that on there. So I had to get pretty tricky. I didn't want to take off or burn off more paint than I had to. And while I was doing all that, I put a nice weld around here because for some reason Mack only did a couple tacks on the back side of this. And I really didn't like that. So any type of water washing the truck or being caught in the rain, it'll just run off instead of getting caught in this seam here that used to be there. So I just gotta probably brush touch this with primer and paint. No sense in having overspray blow all over this thing because it's kind of like painting a Christmas tree at this point. And this is exciting for me. This is the part that I feel achieved because I got all this done. I was doing a lot of thinking about this, trying to figure out what was the best idea. And so far, I'm pretty happy with it. I got to find this piece. This tab here goes across the street to that eyelet right there. There's a crossbar to give them strength. They work in tandem with each other, because if you don't, I mean, you can see how this wiggles. There's quite a bit of movement there. Just trying to stiffen that up a little bit. But it's somewhere here in the garage. And this is the power steering reservoir, again mounted on this pole. Like, there is a lot going on with this pole, so I just want to make it as strong as I possibly can. I even had to make different holes. You can see where this was originally wanting to be mounted, and I thought maybe I could just egg these holes out and move it over that way, because to me it was too close to the back of the cab. So it looks like when I did that, I moved it a solid 1.5 inches to the back. Hopefully it doesn't affect me down the road mounting up the ductwork and stuff to the engine, but it was seriously way too close to the back of the cab. I just was not excited about that. Just got to find some primer and paint, dab that up, and then do something else. I guess the next thing to do is continue on with, I got my battery terminal crimpers, and I already got, really, of all times. Now I've already started with making battery terminals and cables to put in here. I just never completed it. And then I have some other stuff, like I got this big harness here that I got to do something with. That went to the extended cab, went through that, and went to the pump panel that was once upon a time on this truck when it was a fire truck. It went somewhere in this area. So I'm not going to need much off of that loom, but it's not like I can just chop it off with a grinder either. So I'm going to have to figure out which ones run the tail lights and the running lights. And I may make that some type of a junction in this battery box, because this battery box is meant for 4, whether 6-volt batteries, 12-volt batteries, whatever you have them hooked up for. I'm only going to be running 2 batteries. So there's going to be quite a bit of room. I may put a junction block for all the electrical stuff on one side, so it's easily accessible, and it should be pretty simple just to run something in the back. I'm going to take a quick look outside here. Oh, hello, MR Parts Doors. See what the weather's doing before I leave for the night. More snow. And watch that child. I don't know if I'll ever get that truck running. I got half of a will it start video going. The weather has not been at all helpful for me to try to get that thing started. Now granted, it's February. I suppose spring will be here eventually. Time will tell. But stay tuned for that one. Well, that's the end result. I got the filter elements in and everything's bolted up. I got these cap nuts all polished up, stainless steel with stainless steel washers. And like I said, this up pipe is stainless steel. My only issue that I have going on right now is that's supposed to be an 8-inch pipe. And I was going to make a bracket from the top of that, make a stainless strap to hold that in place so it doesn't flop around going down the road. And I welded a nut on top of this up pipe here, the bracket, so it has something to bolt to. I wanted it to have a clean look. My only issue is, me being a little bit cheap, is that stainless pipe is not 8-inch. I didn't realize it was not 8-inch because it was advertised as 8-inch. It's actually 7 5/8. So I don't know if I can find a strap that is, let's say, for a 7.5-inch pipe. Or maybe I gotta do some trial and error, order one that's 8-inch and see if it'll clamp on tight. Not knowing the pipe was actually less than 8-inch, it kind of put the screws to me for the time being until I can figure out what kind of bracket I'm gonna make. But I'm pretty happy with the result. Fast forward, I took this pipe off the parts truck outside so I can complete the piping to the turbo and the tip turbine underneath the cab. I'm seeing if it's gonna mock up correctly. Like I said before, I moved that over 1.5 inches towards the back so I can create some space in between the box and the back of the cab so it wasn't going to hit each other if I hit a bad bump going down the road. And so far, at least for this pipe, it has gone together decent. I was a little nervous about it, but so far it's all right. With all this mocking up, this piece in general, and just all the piping that I had to do to make this work, this is not abnormal. This is what the factory would have done for an application like this, or like the parts truck outside. I just can't believe all the differences. Just so you have an idea, this pipe ran to one side, and then this one, well, actually I'm wrong. So here's my original pipe that went to the turbo, and it was aiming the wrong direction. That's because this truck had a dual setup that you had one air cleaner right here that was tucked underneath the extended cab part, and then this tube went that way to the driver's side part tucked away in the extended cab part of this truck. So all I'm doing is putting it back to what the factory would have done, kind of like what the parts truck is outside. But I'm just amazed. All I did was mock this up right this very second just to see if it would fit. And I had to remove the feed line for the turbo because it just, everything is, it's not working out. And I went outside just to see how that was done. Even this line here, this is a 90-degree bent mandurally probably. Well, the parts truck is a 45, so it's kind of like that. So it clears everything. I'm just amazed all the little things that I had to change just to make this what I would call normal. So I'm glad that I bought the parts truck. I probably would be pulling the rest of the hair out of my head trying to figure out why didn't this fit and what was going on with this. So it was well worth me buying it so I can retrieve all the parts that I could get, and also it was a good pattern for me to figure out how to put this back together. I spent some time today to make this piece of into less of a piece of shit. This is actually the, I don't know, cross brace from the intake bracket to the exhaust bracket. Kind of like so. Actually, it's backwards. It used to go this way. Like that. Can't explain why it was bent that way, and it was actually bent that way from the factory. So we're going to throw that away. And I duplicated it out of stainless steel tubing and welded a nut on both sides. I used the air brake yoke to fasten the other side, and that is what it's supposed to do. A nice straight, so there's no give to it because there's still quite a bit of give. I mean, it's pretty solid, but it's not stiff like I think it should be compared to other trucks. Like the Superliners are really rugged. CLs, obviously, because they use the same bracketry. Can't explain why, unless they were just thinking they needed all they could to get a tolerance for whether this was for a box van truck or a short tractor, dump truck even. Just trying to suck everything forward the best they can, and that's why they didn't put like a bracket to put another cross rod to support both of them. But you know what? They made these for the past 45 years, and I haven't seen any of them fall off going down the road. I just thought it looked like so this is my quick and easy fix, because I had the stainless steel tubing, and it just looks a lot more presentable. And I just got done. This fit perfect. I had to change my piping around to get to the tip turbine underneath the cab. This top piece here actually doesn't belong. This actually came off of another MR. I'm pretty sure I parted one out years ago and for some reason saved the ductwork. Don't know why it was cut off right there. It might have been something like this similar situation here. I just wanted to make it so there was some clearance and they weren't rubbing against each other. So I had all of these. I think this is like a 22 degree and this is a 45, and then a straight boot to put this in there just to make it clean looking. I'll show you the original one. Actually, it came off of the parts truck outside. Same similar deal. It goes from underneath the cab, and this is where the cut was, like I was telling you. And then this piece goes and hooks right to the air box. But for some reason, when I mocked it up, it was not even close. And I don't even think it had anything to do with me rerouting this, moving it back 1.5 inches. I don't think it had anything to do with that, because it was so far off. So I knew it, you know, whatever. I'll just grab some piping and stuff that I've been saving over the years and make something work. So I'm pretty happy with it. It doesn't look the prettiest, but it'll work. I put the offset adapter on it because I am going to put a Jake on this engine. So I mocked it up pretending like it has a Jake now with that adapter on it. And I just got to do some polishing on that aluminum. And just polish them up real quick. Didn't spend a ton of time on them. You can see the camera's reflection in it. I don't even know if this is going to be seen because of the way the rollback body is going to go up against it. It's probably going to go as far as here anyway. So I don't know if you're really even going to see it. But I didn't want to put it on and not at least make everything as shiny as I could. The last kind of final thing that I have to do to really make this truck actually run, I did put oil in the rear. There was a leak on the transmission, on the PTO. I changed the seal and gasket on that, so hopefully that won't leak. I still have to fill that up with oil because I don't want to start it with it being empty. But my next plan of attack here, you can see that I was doing some testing to make sure there was power to the cab and all that. But what I want to do is put in a master disconnect. Now this truck inside the cab, up in the middle of the dashboard there, does have a master disconnect, but it only shuts off the cab. I want to disconnect the batteries completely when the truck is sitting around. So this is the brand of disconnect. This is like the most heavy duty one I've ever been able to find. And we've used them on a few of our other trucks, and they seem to work pretty good. The only thing is about this is it comes with this pretty tricky bracket to mount it on the frame, under the cab, whatever you're going to do, so you can avoid drilling this massive hole to put this in elsewhere. Unfortunately for me, I'm not going to use that angle iron looking bracket. I don't even know where it is anymore because I just lost track of it. But anyway, this is 1 3/16". So it's a pretty good size hole. So what I'm going to attempt to do, I have all sorts of things I can try. I have a humongous 1 1/4" drill bit. I have an 1 1/8" hole saw, and I have a 3/4 reamer to get me started if I wanted to use the drill bit. I would drill it to 3/4 first and then drill the big behemoth hole. But I'm going to try with my hole saw. The only problem with the hole saw, if anybody uses these on a daily basis, the teeth They don't really survive all that long. It just kind of depends on what you're doing. Yeah, like that's a flat spot right there. I don't know how successful I'm going to be with this particular one. I should just run down to Lowe's and get a brand new one. But hey, let me struggle with this. I guess YouTube viewers like it. And maybe I'll just be successful and drill right through it. My plan is to mount this right here. Right on the back side of the battery box. You can reach in there, but it's going to be mounted kind of like that. So I got to drill a hole right here. Actually, you know what? I do have to get that piece of angle iron. Hold that thought. Like magic. So here is this piece that comes with the kit. It's pretty handy. You can put it on and it actually has a hole in the T-handle and here to lock it to attempt some thefting, I guess. In this particular case, I'm not really concerned. And it's also got this little guide pin right here, as you can see. So when you do turn that and by chance this big nut is loose, it won't spin the whole thing and wad up the battery cables on the back side and possibly create an arc. But what I'm going to use this for is once I figure out how I'm going to have this clocked, I probably would want it like this. So that means that little nub is on the bottom end of it. I'll put that in favor like this. And all I'm going to do is take a screwdriver and just scribe around the hole along with this little pilot hole there. And that'll be my mark. So I can get somewhat close to drilling it. I'm going to scratch that up real quick and then do some drilling. So I want to make sure I put it kind of in the center. Actually, that's not even going to work that great. I got to flip it over. And I guess that's all right. It still works the same. So I'm going to flip it over. More in the center that way. Or at least this back piece here was rubbing against my weld and I couldn't get it right in the middle. Just make sure the body doesn't hit the back side of it. And we're clear of any bolts or anything, any obstructions in the way. And scribe a mark. And there you go. Well, I guess what teeth are remaining on this hole saw here were still pretty sharp. I put a time-lapse video. It took about, I don't know, maybe a touch over 5 minutes to drill that out. And you got to keep in mind that was an 1 1/8 hole. And this is 1 3/16. So we're close, depending on how much the hole saw decided to walk around. I'm pretty close. I'm just going to have to deburr it a little bit with a carbide bit so it'll fit in there perfect. And then I can mount it up and put my ground cable connections to this. I use the ground cables. I don't do the positive side. Anybody do it differently, feel free to comment in there. But that's just my thing. I don't do the positive. Caterpillar does positives on their master disconnects. I don't know if there's necessarily a plus or minus, whichever way. Like I say, I do like this brand because I think inside this little gizmo here, there must be a big wedge that puts the contact right down. I have never had one go bad, so they're well worth the money. There you go, perfect. Now notice that nub in there is going to stop it from chucking back and forth once it's screwed right down tight. So even got this really handy stupid proof on-off switch. Not that anybody's going to even be able to see it. Maybe I'll put that on just for making it look pretty. I'll tighten that up. Plenty of thread for that nut to hold it. And just like so. And on the back side, you can see I got plenty of room to put my terminal here and run it up through this slot to the battery. And then this bottom one will be the ground coming from the starter. It's connected here somewhere. Oh, yeah. So it's right here. I just got to shorten it up because it's about a mile long. Take another foot out of it and button that up. Getting closer and closer to having this thing start.